Hey YouTube, doing a tobacco review today. Get that straightened out. Here we go. Doing a tobacco review today of Seattle Pipe Club's Plum Pudding. Now I did a kind of a first impressions of it. I did do a real full review on it. Kind of like it's like a broken, like a cake or something. It's not like a broken flake. It's more like a, crumble cake or something like that. It looks like it doesn't break up into ribbons or anything like that. Smell the latakia in it. A little bit of Virginia with a sweetness to it. You almost get that hint of that McClelland vinegar smell, sorta. Smoking it in a Rick Black poker. No, I did do first impressions of it. Now I smoked it for a bit. So I can give you a better idea of like a full review kind of thing. Now, I smoke really strong latakiyas, Kendall tobacco stuff, and 10 Russians, Balkan Flake, Balkan Mixture, Balkan Sassini. So on the retrohale with this, of course, you're going to notice a latakia as soon as you light it. I'm going to revisit this in a bit, because it always changes a little, right? The latakia is not as heavy as what I'm used to, but you can definitely taste it. It's the dominant component. Oh, I just burned a hole in my pants. That sucks. Oh well. That'll learn me. It's got a bit of a tingle to it. I'm gonna go on. We'll go on tobacco reviews here. Go on tobacco reviews here, and I'll read you the description of it. The tin description doesn't have much. It's same old. What's his face there? Wonder Joe Langford. Blah blah blah. Give you that little rundown of their little blurb of their spiel there. What we got up here now? Let's see. Plum pudding, they call it an English Balkan. Rare tobaccos. Alright, here's all I'm looking for. Black Cavendish, Latakia, Oriental Turkish, Perique, and Virginia. Notice the Perique. Gives you a little bit of a zip. It's not overpowering. It's mostly Latakia, a little bit of a tingle from the Perique. I would say I kind of detect the the Cavendish. It's probably not flavored Cavendish. Sometimes they'll put Cavendish. It says there's no flavoring added to this. But just Cavendish, black Cavendish, unflavored, helps burning. It helps the tobacco burn better, and it also adds a little bit of a sweetness to it. I'm going to have to say the Virginia. I have no idea what kind of Virginia's in it. That's one thing I'm not too good on, is the different types of Virginias and stuff and what kind of flavors they have. But this is definitely a Virginia. The Virginia and the Cavendish are sort of like balancing each other out there. I can detect them both, but I don't really know which one I'm detecting more. You can sit here all day and try to pick it apart, right? It's not really it's a full flavored. It's sort of like a medium body tobacco. It's got a nice creamy smoke to it. Nice and thick. I just cleaned this pipe out with alcohol there yesterday and the day before. There's not a lot of flavors imparted in the pipe. Definitely can feel the perique. I don't smoke a lot of perique. Latakia, of course. But there's that sweetness to it. So it's a little bit sweeter than the Latakias that I'm used to. I like the tobacco. Don't get me wrong, so I'm not saying anything bad about it. I like variety. That Cavendish and the Virginia are really doing something to it. So I just lit it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back in about, I don't know, halfway and see how it's changed. Right, I'm about 2/3 into this now. Just over 2/3, I'd say. And the flavors have been changing almost minute by minute. And if anything, I'm enjoying it. I like consistency, but the flavors it's quite an experience. Like a few seconds right after I did the first little clip I did, I noticed the perique kicking in. Then I'd notice a lot of sweetness kicking in, all the Cavendish coming through. And then the Latakia would slowly, I'm noticing the Latakia is slowly diminishing. It's still there, but it's not the dominant factor of this tobacco now. It's more of a background note. The perique is hitting me here and there. Now, where this is a crumble cake, it could be I'm just hitting a spot, right? I know, I broke it up. A little dry, just a little bit dry. Smokable. It wasn't falling, it wasn't breaking apart, but of course any tobacco, if you break it up too much, it's going to crumble unless it's super wet. I don't like wet tobacco. So what I did is I put a little piece of wet paper towel in the can and closed the lid just off to the side, enough to rehumidify it the next time. Not really getting a lot of Virginia out of it, but I'm getting a lot of the Cavendish. It's a pretty cool smoke. I don't mean cool. I mean cool as in Fonzie. Arthur Fonzie, really. It's I'm enjoying it. Watching the reruns of Happy Days on Cody. It's good burning tobacco. It's not burning hot, not burning cold. It's burning just right. I smoke fast. It's a challenge for me to try to, working on my cadence kind of thing. Depends if I'm talking or if I'm just sitting here, right? But it's not getting too hot. I didn't have to stop because it was too hot. But the Latakia is still there. Just the Latakia is just, there's different flavors in Latakias. I like the leathery, oily, leathery at Latakia, and this has got a hint of the leathery to it. It's like that. For instance, I always refer to the Mac Baron's HH Latakia flake. You know, I'm not a big fan of that stuff. But this here is, there's a lot going on. I wouldn't say I'm getting hints of nuttiness. A lot of people say that the Turkish tobacco gives them hints of nuttiness, which it kind of does if it's a lot in there, but I'm not really getting that out of here. Of course, I'm not trying to, you know, if you think there is this, am I tasting nuts? You're gonna find it if you look too hard for it. So I'm just letting the tobacco kind of, you know. But the started off with a lot of little Latakia, rich Latakia, a little bit of tingle from the Perique, and then less Latakia, more Perique. Then the sweetness kicked in from the Cavendish. Did not get a Perique hit. I don't smoke a lot of Perique. And Latakia and Perique together? I don't know. It's a complex tobacco. It's definitely not what you would call a one-trick pony, that's for sure. And I always say I like consistency, and it's not necessarily that I like the flavor to stay exactly the same top to bottom, because that's never going to happen. But I like to be able to smoke it right down. Sometimes I'll smoke the dottle all the way down, right to the very bottom. Can't do it with all tobaccos though. Yesterday I smoked Balkan Flake, and I couldn't finish it. I couldn't get it all the way down to the bottom. It was just getting too much. It's getting too nasty. And it's the cut of the tobacco probably has a lot to do with it too. It's a really thick cut tobacco, and it doesn't break up as well as some of the other flakes. This here is a little chunky for a crumble cake. The only other crumble cake I smoke is 10 Russians, and that breaks up a little bit smaller pieces than this. So that's probably why I'm getting them hits every here and there, right? Because of the larger chunks. But everything's sort of all coming together. You can definitely, the Perique is definitely stronger. I don't know what kind of Virginia's in here, and I'm having a hard time detecting it. Where I don't smoke a lot of Virginias, it's hard for me to identify them sometimes, unless I know this is just pure Virginia. You know, and of course, all tobacco has Virginia in it, for Christ's sakes. Pretty much everything, right? Unless you're smoking straight burley or something. And then, of course, you know, it's Cavendish is just like cooked Virginia or cooked burley or something like that, right? But it's supposed to be, what they say, Cavendish and black Cavendish, and I can really detect the sweetness in here, but there's not really a flavor, just sweetness, which is odd for an English blend. But this isn't a really overpowering. This isn't like 10 Russians or something like that, a strong English. It's not super leathery like those Kendall blends. It doesn't have that floral essence to it, or that soapiness, as we call it. I call it. I'm starting to get down quite a ways in it. I did have to clear the airway. There was a little chunk in there. My draw was suffering, so I just jammed the pipe cleaner in and opened it right up. It's a great pipe though, right? It's very forgiving for that kind of stuff. Got a nice draft hole in it, nice and straight, doesn't gurgle. But yep. It's very sweet now towards the bottom. A lot less Latakia, a lot more sweetness. And you can definitely feel that Perique towards the bottom. So it did change drastically from top to bottom and throughout. Every few minutes the flavor was changing, and it was I enjoyed it. I really did. This is the kind of tobacco where you really want to sit down and just chill the fuck out, you know. Be in a good environment, you know what I mean, quiet, peaceful, and just enjoy it. It's great for that. not feeling any nicotine. I don't get tongue bite. I don't get tongue bite off anything. But you know that it's funny how the Latakia changed in this. It's nowhere near as dominant as it was. A lot more sweetness. But anyway, yeah, plum pudding. Yeah, it's good stuff. Check it out. All right, guys, thanks.